Hey everybody, this is Petey from the Spinner Rack, and today I'm doing a video on it's going to be on Adam Warlock, right? What about his first appearance, right? So let me get this sort of thing together. Since the Guardian of the Galaxy is out, let's talk about this right here, right? So this was his first time he appeared. The story starts in FF 65, and this is the culmination where he appears to the cocoon. Now, I'll bring up the cocoon because we saw in the last um, Guardian's tale, um, we had a cocoon, this alien race of beautiful golden people decided they were bringing in Adam Warlock. Now, this is the kind of opposite of what the actual story was. Adam Warlock was kind of one of one. So we're going to get into that in a second, right? So let's go to FF 65. We'll see a familiar character. That's Ronan the Accuser, right? And we're just going to quickly go through it because Ronan is a Kree character, right? And there's the Supreme Intelligence, contacts the FF, and then they decided it's going to have a light day, and then, of course, Senator Cruisers accused the FF. The FF was just kind of having a leisurely day, and Reed and Sue meet up, and they are transported. All the FF are transported to meet Ronan the Accuser, right? And instead of what they planned, they are struggling with this guy, right? And we see Alicia, she's waiting for Ben, and then this guy with this funky Kirby bracelet comes in, or armband, and she's like, no, the doors are open. We have no need for doors until that's to the trust, and they walk through the wall, right? So we got our precursor, our subplot to this story, right? Well, this thing, I don't know why it got small again. This thing is a bit bigger. See if that works, hopefully. So, the mystery of the year, what lurks behind the beehive, right? We have Alicia, and this is kind of Alicia's, really her first solo story, where she's been in the series for a long time. And I don't think she gets another solo story until like Thing issue 9. Now this Kirby, she'd already experienced befriending the Silver Surfer and saving the universe. And here she was slightly, she's not really saving the universe, but she's going to come out here. So the FF get to Alicia's place and she's gone, right? And doors are locked and whatnot. So they're trying to figure this out, where she's gone, right? So then he's talking, thing immediately imagines about, hey, if you'd fixed them finally. And he said, no, you're upset, but I'm like, shut up. He said, I don't need your pity, right? And then Reed says he's gonna fix him. Apparently something he might do someday. He'll never rest. That's gonna lead up to a story that's in like, I think it's 78 or something like that. Right? So we have the beehive, right? That was talked about. And look, this one of these Kirby locations that's real funky. When you get inside, it's even funkier, right? So Hamilton is a scientist who brings Alicia here to the Enclave, who are Zoda, it's Morlock, and Shinsky. These three guys here, they are the Enclave, right? Hamilton is, they bring her for this experiments, they tell her all of their backgrounds, and nuclear physicists, and, electronics, biology, and genetics research, and say, what do they need? And she heard all of them, but like, what do they need her for, right? So they want to test her skills, right? He takes off this armband, the space warper that enables me to travel to any area on Earth, right? That's what he used to walk through walls. So Alicia touches this guy's face. She takes the electric. They had to make it something more powerful than a regular blade. She uses it to sculpt this thing, and she's able to sculpt the place. And it's like, the likeness is perfect. It's perfect for us. We can proceed with our plan. Now, Ben is kind of upset, and he's walking around sulking like he's known to do. And he runs into some kids. And the kids all happy to see the thing. And the thing is like, trying to walk away. And some woman is like, hey, you shouldn't cluster around the thing that way. And next thing you know, he insults himself. And she's like, no, I'm just worried about them annoying him. She kisses him on the cheek. And one of those moments where he gets to feel that it's not that bad, right? So he runs off happy. And then we have Torch coming back to the Baxter building, and Crystal's waiting for her. And then there's a moment of play, but you saw how powerful it is. And she's kind of taking, more and more time from Sue in the series, right? Not yet, but she's like kind of has a little more spunk to her, and she's way more powerful, right? So we have Reed working on it. He's trying to do a heat image tracer to find out where she went. So, doors were locked, right? And nobody saw Alicia leave, right? So they show her all the stuff that they're doing, and as they go, next thing you know, there's a big explosion. It's something he's loose again, right? So these guys are worried, and they send things off, but they're kind of worried about what's going on in there. They told them what they did. They're trying to come up with a supreme new race, right? And you have a light cell tank, and then how this thing is reaching adulthood. And then they're so happy. The disaster struck. And then it's him, impossible. He did it, he freed himself, got out of the containment things they had for him. And then as they go to see what happened, and they realize he's too dangerous at this point, right? And that's an electroshock tube. And as they use it, he gets pushed back. They manage to escape. But they want to know what he looked like because they never got to see what their creation looked like. So they're looking if she gets there, she'll be able to scope, tell him what it looks like, tell him what kind of monster it is. Right? So Ben gets to note that the doors are locked, right? So they come in here and see Reed working. Reed is back to the man of action, telling Ben to shut up, let him work, right? And he's just yammering, but she's trying to work hard to try to figure out where she is, right? So he uses this heat thing, and we see Alicia, and we see somebody pop up. Someone I never saw before, right? Someone with this weird funky mask, right? And they walk through the wall. So they have their thing. So Alicia's ready, and Hamilton's like, you know what? I'm going with her. I'm going to check this out. So they go in there, right? Then there's a heat wall that's coming close to them, and Alicia's not really she's not really worried. She's not sure if he's that powerful. Why is he trying to warn us, right? So then they realize he has this armband, and we can duplicate it. But obviously, it's going to take some time, right? But they're going to struggle. Look at that cliffhanger, right? So we get to, at last you will learn what lives within the cocoon, the power of him. And they say that Kirby wasn't happy with the him title, right? So it opens the cocoon, right? So Reed has this funky technology, Kirby stuff that looks really great, right? And we're trying to figure out what the wristband does. Using all this stuff. Now he's got a sterile environment, and Ben gets to do all of his humor at this point, worrying about Alicia. But we go back to Alicia, right? So Alicia, they're going in, and there's some more blasts, and Hamilton is shooting at it, and she's like, "No, let's not do that yet. We haven't been hurt, right?" And said, "What if whatever the other thing on the other side is frightened, right?" So then Hamilton gets tied up, And Alicia goes on, right? So the scientists are still trying to figure, and they get into a little skirmish between each other because they have a difference of opinion. But they kindly calm down and move on, right? They're going to go to the TV scanners to see what's going on. And then we get to see more of the beehive of the enclave, and it's just a thing. And they have this failsafe at the end, this detonator, make a ultronic wave to kind of send that creature out into space, whatever it is. So Johnny's trying to get something to eat, and we have a nice tender moment, and we see Ben and Sue coming. And they're getting something to eat because they've been working hard, and Ben has some pancakes, and Reed comes in to cool down too. So he's doing that. They work really hard, so they're gonna get right back to it, right? So Alicia is like, you know what? I'm not even running into some things. So she finally finds out, and this is a cool effect, right? The walking up, you have a slow walk up to the creature. I'm thinking, oh, she already see it. No, she was blind. I forgot about that. She comes to the cocoon. Said, you have no form. You're encased within something continues with life, but not yet alive. I am about to be born. Is that what you feel is my cocoon? It is soon to open, and then I shall emerge. But now weakness overtakes me. I'm so alone, so helpless. Don't be afraid. I will stay with you. I've known another like you, one who's also powerful, but who needs understanding and compassion. For the sake of all the love I feel for him, I will not desert you. Oh, she meant the thing, right? So Reed getting out his computer readout, so they're starting to build it, and Reed immediately able to duplicate and make his own, right? So then, of course, Sue's pregnant, so he's like, nope, you can't go. And of course, Johnny tells Crystal to hold back Sue, right, and protect her. So they rush through, and no one can believe they do it, but Reed can possibly create anything. And they immediately get into a fight with the Enclave, and the thing is not happy at all, right? So then we go back to Hamilton, who's free, and he goes to the cocoon and says, hey, he's terribly ill right now, right? And it's in the final phase. It's, oh, he's about to be born, right? We don't know what will emerge. So he decides that they were wrong. We're trying to create this creature. So he's going to take it out. And Alicia's like, no. And they say, you lied. And that's possibly, I don't know. It's, look at the action. You got to look at the page. So I'm not sure what the thing Kirby was upset about. But basically what they're doing, what Stan probably was reacting to, is how negative these guys look, right? And you see this thing dissolving and something's emerging from it, while the effort is still making short work of these guys. They're using their tech to go, and they realize, they figure out where Alicia is, and they're making their way to her. At the same time, the energy, the character, the cocoon, whoever's in the cocoon is the power is building up, and Hamilton dies, and then we see Ben come in and save her. You see the Human Torch absorbing as much energy as he can, right? And then we see their escape, right? So they're running, and then what's the name? They say the anti-gravity transmitter descended to space, right? And they use it, and that doesn't work at all, right? So we see the FF making their way out. They know it's going to blow, and they can't make it out in time, but they run into the monster, and the monster is a golden, gorgeous person, right? So he sees his creators, and he takes action to his creators. So here we have, right, the first Adam Warlock story where we're introduced to him and the story. But I guess I have one other tidbit, since that went, I think, fairly quick. Stop sharing. Now, at this point, Kirby was doing a lot of the heavy lifting as far as the plotting. So at this point, I had read this story in the 90s.
You have as much Indian tracking blood in your sick.
I need to look for something. So let me pause my video for a second. Don't go anywhere. So, we get to the end of this, but at the same time, after I read this story and I liked it, I was like, it's pretty interesting. I was getting acquainted with Lost in Space. Now, I didn't retain a lot in my watching, I think on A&E of Lost in Space, but I saw an episode called Mr. Nobody. This is, oh, I need to share the screen. Right? So we have Lost in Space here. And this episode is Mr. Nobody, right? So in this story, Penny, she hears his voice in a cave. Notice she's going into the cave like Alicia, and she's talking to this spirit. It's kind of a disembodied spirit that she can't see. Think about it like that. So it's kind of the reverse. Instead of Penny not being able to see, Penny can't see what this thing is, right? So of course she tells to Smith about it, and Smith winds up that there's some sort of diamonds in there. So I'm gonna get you the part so you can hear Mr. Nobody for 2 seconds, right? So this, I think it's too far. Reads the ugly duckling, and that kind of gets him quiet, so she breaks out. Runs into Smith, who acts like Mr. Nobody. And of course, there's a big explosion, the planet after the explosion.
Open, I
said! So this is the same thing where Mr. Nobody is going through something similar to Warlock, and the whole place is about to explode and whatnot, and everyone is running and stuff. Just like they can't find Penny, like the same way they're trying to get Alicia. And it all ends, they make it out, but Mr. Nobody turns into a constellation, his own, almost his own galaxy, right? And I was just like, wow, the creators of Lost in Space took an episode of the comic, the FF comic. So we didn't have IMDb back when I saw this, which is like the late 90s. So I felt I really had something here. And then I looked at the timeline. Now this is like, I think 1965, and the FF is 1967. So it had to be the reverse. And since Kirby was doing the heavy lifting, we always say that, and they say how Kirby wanted the story. It was kind of his deal. Hey, he was just watching Lost in Space and say, how do we push this into this comic book? Because it has all of the basic beats. Now, I could be wrong. I don't have proof of it, but it's very close. And at the same time, what else can I say about this? Well, it turns into something beautiful the same way you have the Golden Man, right? So it's kind of a Marvel version of this sort of thing. But, you know, it's, I mean, Kirby also took the gangsters from Star Trek, the alien mobsters. I mean, why? Maybe he was watching that. And that's one of the things. Whereas you have some creators, and sometimes the influence over it seeps so far in, it works into the story. Like I think what Byrne describes the Days of Future Past and Doctor Who. But I watched that Doctor Who episodes, and besides the time travel, it's not that close. It is someone trying to go back to fix things, but they kind of fail a bunch of times. So check out this episode of Mr. Nobody and read this arc and see the similarities. Even not if they were both on the same wavelength, that would be interesting too. But yeah, this is the first. This is like the last big creation of the Stanley Kirby run, and this arc that happened from like FF45 to 67, where they created some of the. I think there was the idea also, since they were going to have more titles, they needed some more characters to build out to. So Kirby had a bunch of characters that he wanted to use, and he put it out. So there we go. We got our Adam Warlock. The trailer just came out. So hey, There you go. Spin rack out.